Hey, great morning. Dr. Sean J. Harris here, Generational Wealth Academy. Great morning to everybody. Listen, my talk today is going to be 40 books equals a college degree. So I was doing a little research and I wanted to see how many books per semester or per year that the average college student needs to buy in order to complete their course. So what I looked at was on average 8 to 10 books. I believe in abundance, so let's go with the high side. So let's say 10 books. Now, hold that thought for 1 second. There's 3 types of education. We have what's called a scholastic or academic education. A scholastic or academic education is the education that we receive where we learn arithmetic, reading, writing, the basics. This is designed to exchange our time for somebody else's money, i.e. getting a job. The second type of education is called as a professional education. A professional education allows us to hone in on our skill sets. This is where we start going, where we have like continuing education, we have higher end professions such as medical, law, engineering, biochemists, things like that. So what happens is the third type of education is never taught in school systems, and that's what's called a financial education. This is usually self-taught. However, financial education is what leads us into becoming serial entrepreneurs and also massive business owners. So now that we understand those 3 types of business, those 3 types of education, now you have a platform from which I'm going to speak from. So again, the title of the talk was 40 books equals a college degree. So if an average student purchases 8 to 10 books per year, that's going to be 40 books to receive a 4-year degree. Also, it's going to also include the debt that comes along with the student loan that's typically going to be in place. So let's extrapolate that. Let's say that you have a PhD. Let's just double those numbers for 8 years of schooling, and that's going to be 80 books to get a PhD. Now, most college students that I talk to tell me that half of the books they don't read. The other half they barely crack open, but most of the stuff they're going to learn is just going to be straight from the instructor or the professor. So keep in mind, we have a college degree with student debt attached to it, and we also had a rough average of about 80 books. Now, because I believe in abundance, let's go ahead and go a little higher. Let's just round it up an even number and say 100 books to get a PhD. Now, over my years since graduating high school, I've read over 1,500 books, and I've written 38 books. So I want to go back to the third type of education, which I talked about was financial education, and it's what type of education we're getting. The 1,500 books I had were related to finances, self-development, leadership, entrepreneurship, things that propel me to be where I am today, to own multiple companies. So the point I want you to understand is education is very important, but we have to focus in on what type of education we're looking at. So many times I hear people, parents, friends of mine even, who have said, my kid's going to college no matter what. Then in a discussion or a dialogue, I ask them, well, what is it that the kid wants to take, or what is it that they're going to college for? And they say, well, I don't know, but they're just going to college. So following that ideology puts a kid in a position where they probably really didn't even want to go to school. It's more so that they're being forced, and then they just pick whatever the fad is at that particular moment, why they wanted to go to school. So I'm going to do a video later on this week on a study I did where it said, I think it was like 42% of college graduates or college attendees, because a lot of them don't finish, regretted their decisions on going to school, and also regretted the decisions on the majors that they took in college. So again, it goes back to what type of education that we're looking at. We have to be able to hone in on the education that's going to be a valuable skill set. So, Dr. Sean, are you against college? Absolutely not. Because if I had to have a medical procedure, I surely hope that person went to college and got the necessary degrees to become a medical profession. There's certain other things, a biochemist, engineering, attorney. There's a lot of professions that mandate a college education, and I support that wholeheartedly. But going to college to learn underwater basket weaving is not a necessity. There's a lot of things Tara and I own multiple corporations, to include a healthcare company, a couple real estate companies, an aviation company, a capital investment company. Our children, 12 and 13, our smaller children, 12 and 13, own multiple companies themselves. Kennedy owns a health and nutrition company. She owns a capital investment firm at 13 years old. She's a 4-time author. Caden, he's a 6-time author. He owns his own bus. He bought that bus at 10 years old. He has a financial literacy company. He also has a capital investment firm. Caden currently is a high school senior in a program we have him in because he's homeschooled, and he's also dual enrolled as a college student, all at the age of 12. So again, it depends on how you're structuring your educational journey that makes the difference. But just to tell a kid that they have to go to college when they graduate at 17, 18 years old, because that's just what mommy or daddy said, it's not going to yield you the best results from that child. The probability of a dropout, again, like I said, is 42%. The other 58%, it depends on if they were focused on knowing what they wanted to take. It's what's going to make the difference there. So again, it's about the type of education. And again, we lean heavy on the financial education as opposed to the academic scholastic education or the professional education. We have to be able to position your kids. First, we got to find out, what is your kid's skill set? What are they good at? Or are we taking a look at your kids at early ages to start honing in on some of those skill sets to see what we need to nurture? What do we need to fertilize? See, it's like you never have to plant weeds. I'll give you an example. Just past week, I paid a guy a couple $100 to handpick a big patch of weeds that grew in this new portion of sod that I had laid down last year. There were some dormant seeds of weeds, but I didn't have to water those. I didn't have to fertilize those. And they sprouted right up. The seasons are changing, so the grass is still changing. So my grass still haven't turned green yet, but the weeds are super green and I didn't have to tend to them. So again, just like our kids, we have to fertilize. We have to dump fertilization on the good aspects of what it is that they're looking to do. So that's why I'm telling you, is just to say that I have a college degree, which is a great deal, kudos. But here's the deal: to get a 4-year degree, that amassed about 40 books to get that degree. You can see behind me, that's just one small shelf of books that I have. I have another shelf of books behind me over here. I got other shelves of books off camera that you don't see. I've read over 1,500 books. And here's the deal: I don't just read books one time. Most of the time I read books 2 to 3 times. And let me share with you a skill that I use when I read books to where you can go through books swiftly like that. Is I read a book, I highlight. That's the first run of highlights. So I might highlight in yellow. The second run of that book, I'll read the highlights only. And then I will re-highlight what really stood out to me in red. And then I'll go back and reread the book again oftentimes. So that's how I do a clean sweep of a book and read it 2 to 3 times easily with over 1,500 books. So again, the books that I read are geared around leadership. They're geared around financial literacy. They're geared around business entrepreneurship, plus the books that just hone in on those particular skill sets, whether they're medical books for my medical healthcare company, aviation books, but more so it's about money, because you guys know that's my platform is generational wealth and financial literacy. So I want you guys to think about that as you have smaller kids, grandkids, or even yourselves who may say, hey, listen, I'm considering going back to school. This past week on social media platforms, I saw like 2 or 3 different people that were like 80 plus years old that either got the college degree, got a high school degree, or either got a doctorate degree. Here's my deal. That could be good for just a personal thing. That can be good for it looks good, but realistically, what sense does that make? Okay, again, we have to focus on the proper type of education that's going to move the needle north to help us in our financial pursuits, or just the pursuits of being happy, having both time and money freedom. A lot of you guys hear my videos. I'm always talking about having time and money freedom. So do you have to have $100 million in the bank to be happy? Absolutely not. Do you have to have $100 million in the bank to be free? No, you don't. Think about your freedom number. What's your freedom number? A freedom number is the number that you need to satisfy in your profession. So if you make $80,000 a year, you may not need $80,000 to become financially free. You may in fact only need $60K because now you got to focus on, I don't have to drive to work anymore, or I don't have to buy clothes, I don't have to buy lunch, food, stuff like that. So your cost to be free is lower than what you think. Okay. So once you have that time freedom and you can do the cool things you want to do whenever you want to, with whomever you want to, that's what matters. That's where the true happiness comes in. So you have both a freedom number and you have a lifestyle number. The lifestyle number is, what type of income do I need to live the lifestyle I must have? That may be 80,000. It may be a little more, but whatever those two numbers are, those are the two factors that you have to focus on first in determining your lifestyle, your freedom number, where you want to be and what you need to do with your life. So again, ask yourself, if you have a college degree and you had student loan attached to it, does that student loan equal out to what you paid? Is it commiserate to what you make a year? Another thing, people say, okay, I got my 4-year degree, I'm gonna go back and get my master's, I'm gonna go back and get my PhD. Again, what is the differential between the student loan debt attached to that education and what you're now making in the new position? If they don't line up, you got to do some different things. One of the things that Tara and I focus on is that we ensure that we help clients, families that want to have both time and money freedom. For people who say, hey, listen, I do have a little college loan debt, I want to knock that out, we can teach you how to knock that out. Because there's 3 things we want to show you. We want to show you the 3 money rules. And I'm gonna close on this. First one is being able to create a high income skill set. It's not just about creating income, but you have to create a high income skill set. Sean, what is a high income skill set? A high income skill set is a skill set that you can make at least $10,000 or 5 figures every 30 days or less. Okay. Well, Sean, I make $10,000 a month at my job. Okay. That's not necessarily a high income skill set. That's just a high paying job, because so goes the job, so goes the income. But with the skill set, just like riding a bicycle, if you're watching this and you may have not ridden a bicycle in 15, 20 years, but if I put you outside on a bicycle, you can still loop around a parking lot or in your yard. So that's a skill set that's learned and untakeable. And yes, I make up words as I go sometimes. It's a skill set that's untakeable. So again, just like me, I haven't touched an aircraft in 33 years. But if you put me on a Delta flight line, I can get down, because it's a skill set that I learned in avionics and aerospace propulsion that I just can't unlearn. Some things you just can't unsee. So that's the first money rule. Second money rule is you got to hold on to money. We don't hold on to money just to stuff it in a box and put it on the shelf or stuff it in the mattress. You hold on to money so that you can now turn that money and invest that money and have it to grow. You want to be able to cultivate the money. So the 3 money rules are: first, make money. Secondly, hold on to money. Third, grow the money. But we can't do that if we continuously have holes in the bottom of the boat. So water's coming in, we're scooping it out, throwing it back over, but it's all for naught unless we patch those holes. So patching those holes are changing our mindset, changing our ideology about the way we think about money. Okay. What you grew up knowing about money affects your money today. If you have a lot of money, it's based on how you thought about money growing up and things you learned as you were growing up. If you're in a position where you say, look, I don't have money, or I do have money, it's all based on your ideologies of money and how money is or should be made. You hear a lot of people say, you got to work hard. You got to work hard. No, you don't have to work hard. You have to work smart. There is a vast difference. Working smart means you have mastered the skill of leverage. I can go underneath my sink right now, and as strong as I am, I can twist the pipes and try to break the pipe loose. It's not going to happen. But by taking a simple tool such as a wrench, putting it on there, tighten it down a little bit, and a slight turn, boom, I broke the torque of the pipe. And the reason why is because I just used a tool. See, tools just make a job easier. So there's no need to go through life with heartache and just doing it the hard way. And I did a video last week. Guys, go back and watch that one. It's called Getting It Out of the Mud. I hear so many people talking about, yeah, I got it out of the mud. Listen, there is no badge of honor saying I got it out of the mud. If you got out of the mud, that's great. But it's not like a proud badge to be like, now I want my kids to get it out of the mud. That's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. I never want my kids to have to get it out of the mud. Because Tara and I built platforms from which they can now build from our shoulders and continue building for subsequent generations. So if you say I got it out of the mud, I'm going to be quite honest. Sometimes we have to go back and we have to blame, and I wouldn't say blame because it's just a position that they were in, but we have to look at the previous generation. They put us in that position. So do we want to put our kids and our grandkids in that same position moving forward? Absolutely not. So you got it out of the mud. That's great. But don't put that thought process into future generations. There's certain things that Kenny and Caden just don't know and don't understand. There's no need for them to know or understand at this point. They can learn about that down the road. Because again, unless you present a problem, think about this. I'm gonna close on this. Think about that little kid that was learning how to walk. They were holding on the coffee table and then they fail. And everybody, oh my God, little Johnny fell. You startled the kid. But if you played it cool and never let that kid know that it was a issue with falling, they never would have known it was an issue. They would have just got back up and went on their own. They wouldn't have cried. It's when we act startled as adults, does that child begin to panic and begin to cry. So again, it's not necessary to introduce problems to a child. There's only two fears that we as humans were born with innately, and it was because it's there in place for our safety. We're fearful of loud noises and fear of falling. Those are the only two fears that your maker put in you. Think about it. Even as an adult, or if you see a kid on the side of a bed and they begin to roll over, they'll do like that. When we're falling asleep and our head goes like that, that is an innate fear factor that was put in us as kids. The fear of loud noises. If a kid hear a loud noise, you see them, they panic. As an adult, we hear a loud pop. Oh my God, what was that? Those are the only two fears that were instilled in us, and those were safety measures. All right, guys, I gave a lot of information this morning. I know that was power packed and a great value add. Listen, I'm Dr. Sean J. Harris. Make impact and make money while you're doing it.